Hi, this is Dennis with Second Chance Tackle. The fishing reel we're going to be working on is a small Daiwa reel. It is the D1000. It's a beautiful freshwater reel, kind of modeled after the Mitchell type reels with the removable fast change spool. Simply push the button in and remove that. And overall, a quality reel, single ball bearing. We're going to show you how to take this reel apart, how to service it, how to keep it fishing for a long time to come. Just to give it a quick test here, make sure that the bail is firing. And what we want to do next is get inside the reel, so we'll remove the exterior parts. Daiwa is kind of funny. You want to check the side cap here to see if there might be a screw underneath. There is not. That means that the handle is a screw-off handle, and the handle is removed by turning it in the opposite direction that you would turn the retrieve line. So in this case, it's going to go clockwise. So you can screw off. And then when I take these pieces and parts off, they go into a parts tray. And that parts tray helps me to keep my parts organized. I suggest before you start removing parts, you know what you're going to do with them. Have a plan in place as to where they're going to go, and a system for knowing that, well, when you take them all off and it's time to reassemble, you know where they are, and as you're reassembling them, you know that you've reinstalled all of the pieces and parts. Mine is a little bit chaotic. I use a fast food container. It's got a couple of corners, and typically in those corners I'll put different parts of the assemblies. But I've been doing it a while now. I know what to look for, and my memory hasn't failed me yet, so I'm in pretty good shape with that. But every now and then I'll look over into the parts tray and I'll notice that there was a spring I didn't install, or that seems to be the one that happens to me the most. I'm working on bait casters, and the yoke springs seem to be ignored on the way back in. But have that system ready for you so that you know where they are, and do it before you start removing them. When I remove side plates, I like to put our anti-reverse override into function mode. Now we can pull this off, and we're going to notice what is a relatively straightforward old school design. This has got a side plate and a plastic bushing. Now there are people out there that like the hot rod reels, and I'm not quite sure if you can do it on this one. I suspect you probably could. You can measure that bushing and replace it with a bearing. Thing is, you got a little offset there that sits in the case, so you might be giving up a little bit there, not sure. The next piece, that shim washer, actually rides on top of the arm. And take a picture here because it's easy to invert this arm. Right now the arm looks like the number 9. It can look like the letter G on the other side of this. Oh, that just simply comes off. The other part is on there. So you could actually put it back there. That's not the way it belongs. So just take pictures before you start taking pieces and parts off. That'll enable you to know where you took your pictures from, what the orientation of the pieces and parts were, and well, how to put it back together again. All right, to remove the axle shaft now, we need to remove the tie-down screw. The tie-down screw is in the crosswind block right there. It's a Phillips head screw. And be careful with these small pieces and parts. They tend to bounce. Another reason for having a parts tray. Hold that crosswind block and pull up and out on the axle shaft. Sometimes easier said than done because these things have been in there a long time. There we go. Your axle shaft is out, and then we can bring the crosswind block out as well. Notice the shape of that crosswind block, that being the bottom, this being to the left side of the groove when you go to remount. Going to clean up the dirt on that. Make sure there aren't any burrs in there. Now we can remove the main gear. And I guess we're stuck on that bushing coming out here. One more try here. There we go. All right. So yeah, you just have a bunch of old grease and dirt and debris in there. Here's that bushing that was sticking to us. We'll clean that up. And now let's go ahead and take the rotor off here. We'll be able to see what's going on from a anti-reverse position. And if we need to do any maintenance up top here. This one comes off in the traditional counterclockwise manner. If you're wrenching on the nut and you're not having much luck, try turning it in the opposite direction. And this is our anti-reverse model underneath here. This is a very well made reel for the time. Okay, there's a little upside spring here on the eccentric. This position will come off. When you take this off, you want to note the position of that spring there. What is the top and what is the bottom of that ratchet? Next up then, we can remove the collar. The collar is going to be holding in the pinion gear and the top bearing. This is a single bearing reel. Well, while I'm doing this, if you have any questions on this reel or any reel, if you want to leave those questions in the comment section, I do try to answer those and help viewers out. So if you're stuck on something, if you want more information, maybe you need a part, and you're looking for where to purchase the part, all of those are fair questions, and I will try to answer those for you. We've taken the two screws out. This bearing should pull up and out now. Trying to do that without disturbing the anti-reverse dog. You don't need to move that out of the way. While I have that penetrating oil going, I'm going to spray the joints of the bail, let that work its way in. I want to spin this bearing here. It spins fine. It's got a lot of dirt up top. Kind of makes sense because it's a top drag fishing reel, but this one does have the skirted spool, so there should be less dirt getting in this one. Okay, now what we want to do is we want to clean out the teeth in the pinion gear here. You can see there's a lot of dried grease in here. Dried grease is an enemy of a fishing reel. It's nothing more than dirt. It's lost its lubricating properties, and what it's actually become is a deterrent. It becomes speed bumps as you're reeling the reel. It's kind of trying to get over all of those things that are embedded in the teeth. And well, that's never turns out good. All right, a bit of grease there. Pull it through with a hard bristle brush. That's cleaned. Just want to clean off that gunk on the top of this bearing. I did test it. It's not noisy or anything. It's working fine. But it does have the old grease on top. So you don't want that going into the bearing itself. So take a moment to clean that up. It's basically varnished grease is what it's become. So it's leaked in on it. We got a little bit on the back end as well. This came from the grease underneath. Okay, once you have that off, you can put a squirt of oil on there. The oil will work its way through the shield. It's a metal shielded bearing. And then we can put that back onto the pinion gear. We can put some grease onto the pinion gear. Use fishing reel grease only. No sense messing around with other household greases, automotive greases, and the like. Just use the fishing reel grease that's been designed for fishing reels. It's your best alternative and the best product to use when servicing a reel. All right. Make sure that you seat your bearing completely flat. If you didn't notice it before, there are two sides to this clamp. The wide side covers the spring here so that it doesn't pop out. And it goes like that. Back to our parts tray then. Or in this case, we didn't put them in the parts tray. That's always dangerous. Just looking for my small screwdriver. They tend to want to play hide and seek from time to time. Nope, that's not going to work anyway. All right, go to the broad one. So it's a little bit of a game because you're trying to align the hole and where the screw goes and not drop the screw in the meantime. I think we've got it now. Again, that's a fascinating little design element there. Somebody actually put some thought behind it in terms of including that little bump out to cover the spring so that it doesn't pop out. I'm going to use my pick to align the other hole. Second hole is always easier. Kind of work your way through it. Okay, so now we have our assembly here. We take the click ratchet with that hook. Make sure that the hook goes right through that slot on the anti-reverse dog. So that's properly seated. This is your trip ramp for your bail. This has got a little spring-loaded dog underneath here that's going to hit that ramp and force it back. Just make sure it's clean. Clean underneath if there's any elements of dirt and debris inside there. I don't see any, but we'll do that for illustration. Okay, we can bring that back in now. We can take the rotor nut. Remember, it came off in a traditional sense, so it's going back on clockwise. Always pay attention to that. If you wind up finding that you have the reverse threaded nut, sometimes your mind doesn't register that when you go to put it back on, you need to have it back on counterclockwise for tightening. And then it always is fun. Spin it, make sure that it spins nice and free and easy, which it does. And we can continue then with the bottom end of the reel. Wipe that sticky bushing off there. I suspect there was a little bit of dirt inside that was causing that. Bushings don't need to get oiled or greased if they're plastic like this one, but do seat it into the case the right way. Looks like we have a little bit of dirt onto the override shaft there, so we'll take the moment to clean that up as well. While I do that, I want to remind you that if you haven't subscribed and you like these kinds of videos, that subscribing will help you to learn more about fishing reels, how they're made, who made them, when they made, how they're used, and more importantly, how you can do the service on them yourself. And I would encourage you to subscribe. Again, it doesn't cost you anything, and the whole intention is that this is an educational channel and to teach you how and about fishing reels. All right, there's a little bit more left in there. That's the old grease that has dried out over time. Check the teeth. These all look clean. Again, if you don't see, or if you see something in there that you don't like, pull through. Use a hard bristle brush. You can use a toothbrush. This is just one of those multi-packs that are available from Home Depot or hardware stores or dollar stores. They usually have a brass brush, a steel brush, and a hard bristle brush. And I find most of the time I wind up using the bristle brush. All right, we know that was a little sticky there, so let's put a little bit of grease in as we reload. And that certainly goes in a whole lot easier than it came out. Okay, I'm going to bring our crosswind block piece next. The stud on the back is the stud that's going to ride in that rear track. Remember what we said, that's the downside, so it's going to seat in the track like that. Put that down, we can bring our axle shaft over, make sure that that's cleaned. very light coating of grease onto your axle shaft. Anything more than that will scrape off inside the pinion gear. Bring it down so that the base of the axle is got a square side facing out. And then load it so that you have the hole for the screw aligned with the hole in the block. Bring your tie-down screw in. So this is a 1000 size reel. It's perfect for pond fishing and the like. And we'll make sure that this one gets out there for David to keep fishing. We said that this looked like the number 9. So when we go to reinstall, you want to make sure it's oriented that way. A little bit of grease onto the face. Now you got two things to do here. One is to align it with the position on the main gear. The other is to make sure that it is on the stud. And then we have these two shim washers that went on. Next up then is to put the side plate on. Looks like our decal fell off in the tray. That's all right. What we'll do with the decal here is we'll just clean this off and we'll use super glue to put it back on. That happens with the older reels. The grease not only dries on the inside, also dries on the outside. Make sure that we're in, and okay, and the reverse works. No sense closing up a reel if the functions you're looking for are not working. But we'll continue with this, and then we'll, after the video's done, we'll go re-glue that side plate. All right. We got one more thing to do. That's to check out the spool. Make sure that the drag washers in there are okay. One more. Very nice reel, very solid design, time tested. What more can you say? It works. What we noticed differently about this one than the 100RL that I recently did is that this one has the ball bearing and it has a levered the reverse dog that's top side, not the one from the base. To check your spool, you want to remove your adjuster knob. Should have some kind of metal washer under here that provides the tension, and some kind of drag washer assembly underneath. If you'd like, you can push this out and through. That'll come out the bottom here. Sometimes that's a little bit easier. Yeah, we have a big Teflon washer. Surprisingly, there's a lot of max drag in this reel for the size of the reel. That washer will give you quite a bit. Unfortunately, that washer is stuck to the metal drag now. You very easily use something to separate it, like the razor knife. If you do that, please don't sever your fingers. Be aware that you're working with a knife. And all we have to do is just wipe this down, get the old dirt, which is causing it to adhere, off the washer. And a paper towel is abrasive enough to do that. That makes all the difference in the world. It won't stick now, so it'll be a functional drag, which is what you need. All right, push that back up. If you remove that, bring the washer over. This is a D-sided metal washer. So find the flat spot in your washer, flat spot on your post, bring that in. Bring your tensioner down. Reinstall your adjuster knob. And this one's ready to go fishing. Okay, we're going to reinstall this onto the post. Make sure it locks in. For now, I'm going to put the handle on. I'll come back again and re-glue that badge. give it a try. What a nice smooth operator. It's a great little reel. Turns free and easy. Ready to go fishing. Well, I hope you've enjoyed that. Before I leave, I want to thank our first responders, our police, fire, safety, rescue, everybody involved in keeping us out of harm's way. I do appreciate your dedication to task and your career choice. I want to thank you for watching and for making this channel what it is. If you've liked the video, please like it. Again, if you haven't subscribed and you'd like to see more of these, please subscribe. This is Dennis with Second Chance Tackle, wishing everybody a great day.